hopefully you got a chance to read what the talk was going to be about. So it talked about general ID, and then that was pretty broad. So Mel and I talked a little bit, and we decided we'd talk about plants and vegetation communities of Orange County. So I'm going to go through and talk about the vegetation communities and talk about identifying some of those plants, the most dominant plants in those communities. If you have any questions, if you want to put them in the chat, feel free to add your questions to the chat, and we'll take a break probably about 20 minutes in and answer a couple questions just to give everybody a break from the talk. So this first slide you'll see is my Catalina mariposa lily on the side after the burn. I was lucky enough to work in the burn areas with Fred Roberts doing a botanical inventory. Okay. All right, so my education, if you were in the chat, you probably heard I went to Cal State Fullerton. I have a bachelor's in biology.
Professor Levitsky, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you making time.
And then please me, I will also.
So on the.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are we good?
Yeah, I think we should be good.
Okay, well, thank you to CNPS for having me speak. So anyway, I have a bachelor's in biology from Cal State Fullerton. I took field botany, plant taxonomy there, and I also did an internship working with a master's student on the special status Santa Ana River woolly star. I also took a restoration class at UC Riverside from Ted St. John. And my education continues on a regular basis, going to conferences and workshops. And I also am CRAM vernal pool trained to delineate those. And I just got my certificate in GIS from Cal State Fullerton. Oops. Oops, sorry, my mouse is touchy. So what do I do now? I am a principal biologist and botanist. We own our own company, Leatherman Bioconsulting. I started out as a U.S. Forest Service botanist doing fire sales. Basically, we did rare plant surveys 10 hours a day, filling out CNDDB forms and on topo maps and just a lot of hiking. I was then a naturalist at Oak Canyon Nature Center, which was an amazing job, but I couldn't support myself, so I became a biological consultant. I worked at large firms for numerous years, and then in 2011, Brian and I started our own company and continued our consulting work there. Was fortunate enough to start my own company because I had made it to senior project manager and I wasn't in the field as much, but as you can see, the field is my love. I currently do rare plant surveys, vegetation mapping, tree surveys, restoration, all mostly in compliance with CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. So here's the resources that I learned with. In plant taxonomy, we used the vascular plant families, which is an amazing book. I think my daughter still has my copy. It is a wonderful book to learn your families and very helpful. Then in plant tax and field botany, we used the flora of Southern California. I started out with the 1974 MUNS. And then the picture guide I used was the roadside guide. And then we have Fred Roberts' various checklists and the Jepson manuals. And now we're all lucky enough to have the Wildflower book written by Fred and Bob Allen, which is amazing. And I carry in the field with me also. So here's some of our digital resources that you are probably all aware of. Seek is just a children's version of iNaturalist. It's pretty easy to use and quick if you're just looking at something rapidly. And of course, I use the eFlora also on the Jepson Herbarium, and CNPS, the Manual of California Vegetation, and the Rare Plant Inventory. Oops. Okay, I just thought I should mention a few people that were collecting in Orange County when I started out. There are some pretty amazing names there. And I'm sure I forgot a few, but these were who I learned from and how I started my career. So the checklist of Orange County, so they started out in 1968, and then Fred started listing the plants in 1977 and then continued on. You can see every year the number of taxa have been increasing, and we have just finished a draft on it, and he actually was trying to get me the numbers tonight. I think we have a couple hundred more on there, but we're not sure until we finish. We're hoping to get it out this year, but we've been hoping to get it out for several years, but we do have a draft done. So it's very exciting. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the vegetation in Orange County, how it's been classified. So Holland in 1986 did the vegetation communities for the entire state. So following that, there needed to be a refinement for the NCCP in the state of California. And so Gray and Bramlett developed a classification system breaking down all the vegetation types of Orange County. Following preparation of that, Sawyer Keeler Wolf came out with the Manual of California Vegetation, which further broke down all the habitat types and vegetation communities into alliances, which are much more detailed and are listed by the dominant species. So here's just an example of Orange County. There's 178 alliances by the current Manual of California Vegetation. So for the purposes of this, oops, sorry, my keyboard is not working. It's just my mouse. So we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to go through the habitat types and then the dominance in these and how we ID them. So we're going to talk about the first 9, which are the habitat types, and then we're going to do we're going to leave out the land cover classifications. Those were just added for the purposes of the to map all the preserves in Orange County. So I thought this was really interesting. These are the most common families in Orange County. Of course, sunflower and grass family, we would expect to be the most common because of the number of taxa in those families. Closely following them was the pea family, and then the mustard family, many of which are non-native. And then there was a lot of ties after that for the most common species with the goosefoot family, and it used to be the figwort family, but now that they've separated that into many different families, it doesn't rank on the list any longer. So the most common genera in Orange County are saltbush, Phacelia, clover, California lilac, spurge, deerweed, and lupin. So I found this pretty interesting also, that it was atroplexes, yet which is in the saltbush family. However, our sunflowers are the most dominant, and they don't even make the list. So pretty interesting to look at. Oh, the plant down at the bottom is a Phacelia also. I forgot to label it. Okay, so we're going to get into our habitats, and then we're going to talk about some dominance in that and how you'll tell what your habitat type is. So our dune habitats are pretty limited in Orange County. They're the sand along the coastal strand along the coast. So they're made of stands of annual and perennial herbs, grasses, and shrubs that occur along the sand dunes. So there are two types in Orange County: forest dunes and dune scrub. And here's our general locations, as we said, along the coast. Unfortunately, probably our most dominant species is our freeway ice plant, as many of you know, and then sea rocket, both of which are non-native, and lots of people are making huge efforts to get rid of these. Most of them were planted to stabilize the dunes. Our native species are our pink sand verbena and our beach evening primrose. We're going to talk about our two natives. So our pink sand verbena belongs to the 4 o'clock family. It's a perennial herb that grows across the dunes. It has nice round leaves and it's a beautiful plant. It has the magenta flowers with a white throat. It has tiny little seeds, and it's known to hybridize in some areas, which with the rare one, the red verbena, which is very pretty, also a little more succulent looking, I guess. Okay, our beach evening primrose is our other dominant species in the dunes. You can see that right now it's blooming along in Huntington Beach. So it belongs to the primrose family, the Onagraceae. You can tell it easily because it has bright yellow flowers with 4 petals. It seems to bloom quite a bit throughout the year, not just spring. It has ovate leaves and coiled fruits. I don't have a picture of the fruit, but it has really fun fruits if you ever see it. So one of our rare plants that occurs in dunes, is the brand star Phacelia. It's a tiny little thing, as you can see with my Sharpie down there with nice purple flowers. It's a beautiful plant. And of course, had to add the snowy plovers for my Nicole, because she gets to look at them, my daughter, out at Fort Ord. This picture was taken in Northern California. And if you look at the picture on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see little tiny dots, and those were all little snowy plovers. So they enjoyed running along the beach, looking at the bands on them with our binoculars. So now we'll move on to scrub. Scrub is the most common vegetation type in Orange County. It's usually 3 to 4 feet tall and 70% in shrub cover. The picture at the side is a black sage scrub. So there are 9 types of scrub in Orange County and numerous subtypes. Most of your coastal sage scrub falls under the sagebrush and sage scrub. We'll talk about 6 of the dominant species: the California sagebrush, California buckwheat, bush sunflower, black sage, white sage, and prickly pear cactus. So our California sagebrush is our most common dominant species in our coastal sage scrub. The California sagebrush is in the sunflower family. It's of the ragweed group though, so it doesn't have a typical sunflower flower. It's very indistinct. It dries out, so it really loses its leaves quite a lot in the summer and during drought. So it won't look this hardy and healthy. This picture was actually taken today in my backyard just to get a nice shrub picture of it. Its leaves are 3-parted. It smells really strong like sage. Most of you probably know it. It has small seeds and it provides habitat. It's one of the main components of habitat for the threatened California gnatcatcher songbird. Our next species is a California buckwheat. It belongs in the buckwheat family, and it is an evergreen shrub. It has linear rolled leaves with white umbels, or white umbels of flowers and small seeds. You can also make buckwheat pancakes, I hear from it, but I haven't. There's 3 varieties in Orange County, so you will see different coloration on the leaves also, but it is one of your common species of coastal sage scrub. So another one of ours is bush sunflower. It's a sunflower family, and it has a very distinct, what we all think of as sunflowers. It's an evergreen shrub with green smooth leaves, yellow flowers, and its seeds look like little sunflower seeds. So it's very pretty. We'll also get another species in California, in Orange County. It's called, I can't remember its common name, but it's Encilia farinosa, and it gets a grayer leaf. And most of that was planted by Caltrans, except up in the Chino Hills back in the day, but they can hybridize also, so you will see a mix of both. Oops. So white sage is another one of our sages in our coastal sage scrub. It's the mint family. It's an evergreen shrub, and you can see it has opposite leaves, meaning the bottom picture shows the opposite leaves, where the leaves are both coming out in the same direction. It has nice white flowers. Some people will call it a wand sage. It has small dark seeds. It's really important to note this plant is being poached a lot in the wild for people that sell it for saging. So if you're gonna buy this plant for saging, you want to make sure that they bought it from a sustainable source and that they weren't taking it from the wild. Okay, our next sage is black sage, Salvia mellifera. It's also of the mint family. Characteristic of the mint family, you can see the flower in the middle picture. They are in whorls. It has dark green leaves, purplish white flowers. I don't know why I have fruits in there, a mistake on my slide, and then it has really small dark seeds. It's a very strong smelling sage. Most people either love it or hate it. Okay, and our next one is prickly pear cactus. This is a type of scrub they actually call southern cactus scrub in the Bramlett description. It's the cactus family. It has succulent stems or pads. There's several species in Orange County. They're having a little bit of a difficulty figuring out what everything is, and no one's done a lot of work on them when you talk to the cactus experts, but we have several species, and it depends on the flower color and the way the spines are arranged. To make up southern cactus scrub, because it is so sparse and it really gets hit hard by fire, it's only 20% of an area. Only 20, so an area only has to be 20% cover in cactus to call it southern cactus scrub. And the cactus is extremely important to support the cactus wrens in our area. A couple of our rare plants in coastal sage scrub, many-stemmed dudleya is on most of the ridges and rock outcroppings in Orange County. It, as you see at the bottom, it's growing, it's the yellow growing out of the rock outcropping, and then there's a picture of it on the right-hand side of its flower. It's a corm, so it actually dies back during the summer months. a couple of our other scrub. These are coastal bluff scrub species. This is, we just did a hike at Dana Point field trip last weekend or a couple weekends ago, and this was one of the plants, but most of them you can't see because they're on the cliffs. And this one is seaside Anthe. And then here's another one at Dana Point Headlands, and this is Amphonisma. It's really a neat plant. I was lucky to be out there in a very good year with lots of rainfall. Okay, so we're going to move on to chaparral. Chaparral is the most dominant vegetation type or plant community in California. Chaparral typifies the Mediterranean climate throughout the world, pretty much. It occurs in mid to upper elevations in the Santa Ana Mountains. You can see the picture at the side shows some of our chaparral areas. Okay, there are 12 types of chaparral in Orange County. There's a list of them, and most of them are made up of some form of chamise, California lilac. You will get some black sage in there also. You'll get the Lord's candle, some toyon, and lemonade berry. So we'll talk about those more in detail. Okay, chamise is one of the dominant species of most chaparrals. It's in the rose family, which tiny little flowers. It's an evergreen shrub. It has needle-like leaves, well adapted to the Mediterranean climate, white flowers, and very small fruits. And I thank Ron for letting me use this picture, because I realized none of us in the office had a picture of chamise, which is kind of interesting. I guess we just don't take pictures of it. Our next species is California lilac, ceanothus. So with our subspecies in Orange County, I think we have about 15 different types. It is beautiful. Most of you probably know a ceanothus. It's either a hybrid of our naturally occurring ones or a native ceanothus, California lilac. It belongs in the buckthorn family. It is an evergreen shrub. It has various shapes of leaves. They have white or bluish purple flowers. They have capsule fruits. The funnest thing I think about the ceanothus, and I had always heard about it, but I didn't know if it was really true until I was out one day, and the seeds pop like popcorn. So when you're standing out there and the heat comes up, they will start popping, and they start hitting you and popping all around you. It's really fun, but I've only probably witnessed it 2 or 3 times. So you just have to be there at the exact right time. But it's a beautiful plant and grows well in a garden usually too. So this, our Lord's candle, or chaparral yucca, as some people call it, belongs in the lily family. It's a perennial. This one, it really has a purple tinge, and I think that this is from the canyon fire areas when we were doing the botanical inventory. So I think some of it has to do with the soils and the nitrogen in the soil, perhaps. I'm not sure, but it was just a gorgeous plant. You can tell it from the chaparral nolina, which looks very different because this dies right after it blooms. And then it also has rigid leaves, and it's not clonal. The chaparral beargrass or nolina has more flexible leaves. It has a different flower, but they're not always flowering, and it survives after it flowers, and it is clonal for the nolina. Okay, the next species is toyon. Toyon is very common throughout Orange County. It belongs to the rose family. It's an evergreen shrub with serrate leaves, white flowers, and bright red berries in the fall and winter. Fun fact about it is it's Hollywood berry, and it's where Hollywood got its name. And the little tiny red berries, the cedar waxwings love to eat them. It's really fun to watch them. Okay, our next shrub of the chaparral is a lemonade berry. The lemonade berry belongs to the sumac family. It's an evergreen shrub. It has serrate leaves, whitish pink flowers, and sticky pink fruits. And it really does taste like lemonade if you suck on the berries or you put them in water. So it also sticks in your hair, sticks in your dog's ears, and sticks about everywhere. Couple of our special status or rare plants, Broughton's milkvetch. It's one of my favorites. I've searched for it for years. I finally found one in where is that? Woolsey Canyon up in LA County. I found one plant, and then I got hired to work on the canyon fires with Fred to do the botanical inventories, and we had thousands of them. So they're a fire fall, and they grow on limestone or carbonate soil, so they're only visible about their lifespans usually they think around 5 years, and they grow to 6 feet tall. So it's just an amazing plant. It was so exciting to first find it. Another species is a calicortis, an intermediate Mariposa lily, one of our rare plants that we do a lot of surveys for. Okay. Mel, should we take a break and answer a few questions? Does anybody have any questions yet?
I have not seen any in the chat, but if anyone
Okay.
wants. Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Although I have 2 questions. One, are there any? I know that when I went to the California Botanic Garden, that their funding was cut for banking all the ultra rare, and after that the rare after that plants. Are there any efforts to try to get funding through other means to you know bank all those rare species? And the other question I have is, um, what again was the thing at Star Ranch with sage?
Oh, so I don't know. We'd have to talk to California Botanical Gardens to find out what they're doing about their funding for the banking of the seeds. I'm sure they're working on doing different grants. I know a lot of grants were cut. And then there is going to be a field trip with Sea and Sage Audubon Society and California Native Plant Society at the beginning of June.
Okay, thanks.
cool. I think there was one in the chat. It says Eriogonum californica, same as Eriogonum fasciculatum. Nolina is colonal. Does that mean it produces pups? So those are 2 separate questions.
Oh, did I say Eriogonum californicum?
I don't remember, but
Oh, if I did, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And then the other question was about the Nolina producing pups.
yeah, the question was Nolina is colonal. Does that mean it produces pups?
Yes, and you'll see they'll be in clumps of like 7 or 8 or 9 in almost in a circle. I have a couple pictures later on, and yeah, you can just see big clumps of them instead of just one separated out.
And then another question, it says, these different areas, are they also defined by the elevation of the land?
Yes, a lot of them have different elevation gradients. That data is available in the manual of California vegetation. I had some of it in there, and I had to cut some things because I thought, uh-oh, I'm never going to make it through. So,
Oh, I've one more question. I don't know if you know this or not, but the area of the Tree of Life nursery that um they're selling, I was wondering if there are any efforts to protect that area because of rare plants may be found there.
what I know of Tree of Life has always been leased from Rancho Mission Viejo properties. So it will be going back to them, but they have a management plan for all of Rancho Mission Viejo properties that that outlines the areas they're going to protect and develop on their properties.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
And then I think there was a few more questions, so I'll just take the last three that are popped up, and then we can get back.
Okay.
But this one said, was there a slide about getting more involved in this field?
Was there a what? I'm sorry, Mel.
I think this person is Timothy was asking if there's like a slide that you're going to provide about getting more involved, like in the botany field specifically.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that more at the end.
And then Christian asked, are you able to identify the Calochortus weedii intermedius vegetatively or without an open flower?
Um, a little bit, and it's more the seed pods are distinct, and usually the areas they're growing in are a little bit different, but it's pretty hard with the leaves until, yeah, it's very difficult. There's slight differences. Usually the weedii intermedius is usually thicker and robust, but the Catalina mariposa lily can be pretty thick, but also they all come out at slightly different times a year in Orange County. But you'll see, I used to monitor a Calochortus weedii intermedius population that was transplanted, and the leaves would come out as early as November, which was surprising because they don't bloom until late May. So.
Cool. And then the last question we'll take is from Susan. Is the milk vetch prickly? So I think the milk vetch that you just mentioned.
Oh, the Broughton's milkfish. No, it is not. It's pretty soft. It's a beautiful plant. No. Okay. All right. Well, we'll continue on with the grasslands. So grasslands occur throughout Orange County. Most of you probably know they are dominated by non-native grasses. When we're vegetation mapping, we classify a grassland as native if it has at least 10% native grasses, which probably seems very low to most people, but that's typically a standard that we use as botanists. You'll see in the pictures, the right-hand side actually has a transect tape, and that is a native grassland. And it has a lot of our purple needlegrass. And then the right-hand picture is of our annual grassland that has non-native species. So there's 8 types. And the dominant species in those in Orange County are purple needlegrass, foothill, red brome. So those are our 2 natives. And then our non-natives being red brome, ripgut brome, wild oat, and hair barley. Those are our most common. The picture below also, you'll see a native grassland looks a little different it's more open. You can see the Lasthenia, or sorry, the gold fields in there. It's just more open. It looks lighter. It kind of has a different green color. So, so our purple needle grass, this is our native grass. It is a perennial bunch grass, and it has a softer look to it. And if our hills were native grasses instead of non-native grasses, most of them, they'd still keep a greener tinge even during the winter. So, and they're bunch grasses, so they are perennial. And so you'll see kind of lumps out in the grass. This one's actually in my backyard because I was lacking for a picture of of purple needle grass. So, and this is one of our most common weedy grasses. This is red brome. It is a non-native annual species. It gets the reddish tint to it, the foxtail look to it. It's the one that's stuck in your socks, stuck in your dog. It is just a nasty grass, and most of your bromes are rough, while your needle grasses that are native are softer. This one is another, oh boy. So this is ripgut brome. This is another one of our non-native grasses. It has really long awns. You'll see in the bottom picture, the awns in a grass are the long thread-like parts, and they're very long, and it's very rough to the touch. Also, it is also another foxtail. So another one of our non-native grasses you'll see is hair barley. It's non-native, an annual grass, and it has kind of that brush-like flowering head, or if you know barley, it looks like the barley that they use in cereal. It's actually the other barley, I can't remember its scientific name at the moment, but they actually planted a lot of that in Orange County, so you will find it every so often, but it's super robust and looks different. A couple of our rare plants in grasslands. We have the threadleaf brodea, one of our favorites. It's a beautiful plant. Below is actually where we found it. Unfortunately, it's in the annual grassland, as you can see. And then next to it, we have the roundleaf fillery, California macrophylla. This is a little geranium, and it's a really neat little plant, but those white flowers fall off almost immediately. We always used to laugh when we do surveys with Dave Bramlett, because he would always sit down in lunch and sit by one and he found the one population in 1,800 acres one time. So it was really funny. Okay, so now we're going to talk about our seasonal wetlands. Our seasonal wetlands are scattered throughout Orange County. They're seasonal inundation or saturated soils, and they're dominated by hydrophytic vegetation. The picture below shows our anemopsis and some of our grasses. There's 4 types. There's vernal pools, alkali meadows, freshwater seep, and freshwater swale, excuse me. The picture below is of an alkali meadow. You can see in the foreground, there's a slight yellow tinge to it. That's actually southern tar plant. Here's some of the dominant species are woolly marbles, saltgrass, herba manzana, rushes, sedges, and alkali heath. The picture below is of the herba manzana. If you don't know it, it's a gorgeous plant. I would say one of my favorites, but I say that a lot. Here's one of the juncus that occurs in these areas. This is the Irish leaf thrush. It is a native perennial, and this one is really a little bit different than most rushes. It has flat leaves like a non-native iris you can see in the top picture, and it has a very beautiful flower. The flower is on my yellow notebook on the left-hand side, and then the in my hand in the other. And you'll find this a lot in seasonal wetlands and actually in drainage ditches too. So sedges are another common plant in these areas. It's a native perennial. It has triangular leaves. So you'll see the top, it's actually a triangle. What we were always taught is sedges have edges and rushes are round, but the last we were laughing because the last rush I showed you is actually not round, but sedges usually have edges. So when you roll it in your hand, you can actually feel it feels like a triangle. And then they have lots of various flower types. Sedges and rushes and grasses are some of your harder plants to identify. And this is just a picture of one of the vernal pools at San Onofre that they've done some restoration on, and just thought I'd include it. It's a gorgeous pool. Here's a couple of our rare plants. We have the southern tar plant. You'll find this coastally and also in these alkaline marshes, sometimes inland, in like the Chiquita area up in Chiquita in like Rancho Mission Viejo areas too. And then below you can see I'm sitting by a vernal pool type area, which had the mud nama in it. And mud nama also occurs around Irvine Lake. So now we'll talk about our marsh habitats. Marsh habitats are seasonally or permanently flooded throughout riparian zones in coastal Orange County. They have persistent hydrophytic vegetation. There's 4 types, and we have our coastal salt marsh, our brackish, our alkali, and our freshwater. And some of the most common species are cattails, sedges, rushes, and pickleweeds. So you'll see in the picture below, that's just a flood control channel, and you'll see those are cattails on the right-hand side. So here's a picture from today. I was working this morning getting some more pictures because I was missing a few. So the cattails, most everybody knows what cattails or tules are. You see them, they're in the middle of the lake at Carbon Canyon Park. And basically a hot dog on a stick is the inflorescence. So the big brown, down in the lower picture, you can see the brown inflorescence that looks like a hot dog. So my restoration teacher's favorite saying was build it and they will come. He said, don't ever plant a typha anywhere or cattail anywhere because you don't need to, it will be there tomorrow. So, and I have found that always the case on my restoration sites also. And for our salt marshes, we have our dominant species are pickleweeds, or they used to all be pickleweeds or glassworts. So there's 3 types in Orange County in our coastal salt marshes. And it was very interesting when I was working up north, I made sure I learned all the types in great detail and looking at them. So it was interesting to learn them well. Our most common, and you'll see across most of like the Newport Back Bay, is the Pacific pickleweed. They all have succulent stems, but so the Pacific pickleweed will be the most common out there. And then you'll have the Parish's pickleweed up on the higher elevations and the slopes in the drier areas. And you'll have the dwarf glasswort in the mud flats in the water. my picture doesn't do it justice. It's really, really bright green and very noticeable. The dwarf glasswort is, and then the Pacific pickleweed is more shrubby and it turns almost a beautiful red. In fall, you get all your fall colors in your pickleweeds. And then the parishes is kind of a heavier shrub on the edges of the bluffs. So one of our special status or rare plants is the salt marsh bird's beak. It's just a gorgeous plant. If you haven't had a chance to see it, great way to see it is I think Rachel's going to be leading a kayak trip in this fall again with California Native Plant Society, and you get to see the salt marsh bird's beak along the shore. So we're going to talk about riparian habitat next. Our riparian habitat occurs along the main rivers and creeks and tributaries in Orange County. Arroyo Trabuco is probably your most intact riparian system in Orange County. And we were debating earlier today in the office what other ones ranked with Arroyo Trabuco, but in Orange County, we've always heard that it's one of your top, and it is amazing. They're seasonally flooded areas associated with streams, either perennial or intermittent. And within the riparian habitat is in the stream bed, along the banks, and in the floodplain. So there's 11 types of riparian areas in Orange County. The dominant species in most of them are Fremont cottonwood, willow, western sycamore, and mulefat. The Fremont cottonwood, it belongs in the willow family. It is a very large deciduous tree. It's not a super long-lived tree because it grows so fast and it has softer wood. It has white bark, green triangular leaves. It has catkins instead of any type of flower. So you'll see catkins are kind of like caterpillars hanging from the tree, and it has fluffy white seeds that spread everywhere. You've probably seen them if you've walked under them. They actually are blooming right now, and they covered the Santa Ana River the other day and made it all white. The next plant is our California or western sycamore. The one, the picture on the right was taken at 5 o'clock this morning in my backyard because I realized I didn't have a sycamore picture. So the California sycamore is the plane tree family. It's a deciduous tree. It has nice puzzle bark, large palmate leaves, which means it's almost like a hand, a palmate leaf. It has the ball fruits. Many of you probably threw them at each other as kids, or we all did. And then fluffy buff colored seeds. It's a gorgeous tree. Okay, our next dominant species we're going to talk about are willows. They belong in the willow family. You'll see they're a large deciduous tree. We have 3 main types of our trees in Orange County, but we do get 2 other species also. So I think there's a total of 5 in Orange County. Some of those got kind of messy when people were doing restoration early on. So it has various different colors of bark. They have linear leaves and catkins. Also, you can see the catkin in the bottom picture. They have fluffy white seeds also. They also, willow family is salicylic acid in them. They use it's under the bark to help make aspirin. One of your most common species that you're going to see and probably want to learn if you are working in Orange County or just hiking for fun is the mule fat. The mule fat is in the sunflower family. I changed that up on what I called them. It's an evergreen shrub with brownish woody stems. It has linear leaves, fluffy white seeds, and then it has pinkish white flowers. You can see the flowers down in the bottom. They aren't the catkins, they're the sunflower family. And the fun fact about them was that it's called mule fat because the gold rush prospectors supposedly tied their mules to the trees. Now they don't know for sure if they were getting fat from eating them or whether they were actually bloating from eating the mule fat. Okay, next we're going to talk about woodlands. Woodlands occur in the foothills of Chino Hills and the Santa Ana Mountains. They have a tree cover of typically 20 to 80%. So here you see a coast live oak on a great foggy day. So here's our 4 types. You have coast live oak woodland, walnut woodland, cismontane juniper woodland, and Mexican elderberry woodland. I guess it should be changed to blue elderberry woodland at this point, which is its current common name. So we're going to talk about coast live oak, Southern California black walnut, and blue elderberry dominance. Actually, I think just the top 2. Coast live oak, many of you know oak trees. So our most common large oak tree in Orange County is the coast live oak. It's evergreen. It has dark bark. It has bright green leaves, cup-shaped leaves. It has hairy armpits. I'll show you that on the next picture. Acorns, and it amazingly crown sprouts after fire. So it doesn't sprout out the bottom always. It sprouts out of the top of the tree. So I found that really interesting. And here's a picture of the leaves for you. So it has catkins also, as you can see. And then the hairy armpits are actually the at the edge of the vein, you can see little fluffy areas on the leaf, and they call those the hairy armpits, and that's one of the ways to identify this oak tree. Okay, the Southern California black walnut. It is a deciduous tree. It has dark brownish black bark. It's many trunked. If you've ever had to work with them or tag them, they're extremely difficult to tag because they have so many trunks, and they have small black walnuts. They also have catkins as their flowers. One of the few things you can confuse them sometimes with sometimes the seedlings of Tree of Heaven will look similar. And we also get some planted walnuts that will look similar. Great examples of this, though, if you ever want to go see the walnut woodlands, Chino Hills State Park has amazing woodlands right by off of Carbon Canyon Road. They have an amazing native garden, actually. Okay, so forests. This is our last one we're going to talk about. The forests occur at the top of the Santa Ana Mountains and in the larger canyon bottoms and creeks. This is a great picture. Luckily, Brian, my husband, took this picture and had it from doing the bird surveys up at the top, the Christmas bird count. So you can see the pine trees down below, and it's just a really nice shot. There's 7 types in Orange County, and the dominants in these types are oak trees, pine trees, bay laurel, and white alder. So you can see the pictures here. We have to the left, we have a planted bay laurel, and it has smooth green leaves. And then we have an alder, a white alder here. Oops. So that's the end of our plant ID and our talking about the vegetation communities. So ways for you to get involved. The field trips are amazing. These are a few pictures of our field trips and our workshops, and they're lots of fun, and people love to talk about plants, answer questions. It's just great to be out with all the people and attend the field trips. And then another way is, oops. Is find your people. Oh, I'm so sorry. My computer is really touchy. And find your botany people. I have lots of great botany friends, and we all love to go out hiking and talk plants. So that's the end of my talk. The rest is just pretty pictures that I found during my getting ready for the talk, and I'll answer any questions.
Yay, that was you couldn't like see me or hear me, but the whole time I was like, yay. Like I feel like Zoom, you don't like see anything, but that was a fantastic talk.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but if anyone has any more questions, I know a few more came in. Not too many more, but if anyone has any questions, we can have Sandy answer those. Um, One from Terry. Are commercial and residential landscape planners generally recommending native and drought tolerant plants as opposed to non-native and or ornamental plants?
Well, I would say yes and no. It depends who they and where and who they know. And I think CNPS doing the garden show this last weekend was an amazing way to get people into starting to realize how beautiful they can make their native gardens. For a long time, a lot of your cities didn't like natives in the front yard because it didn't look as pretty. So showing them what you can do with natives is very important. But I think you have a little bit of both and still working hard to educate people with natives.
Cool. And then Timothy asked, are there any links for getting involved? And I think for that, just like going to the Orange County Native Plant Society website specifically for Orange County, but there are other chapters around Southern California. But I don't know if you have any other resources, Sandy.
Yeah, and Southern California Botanists is also trying to really ramp up their field trips. I would suggest that. And then also the Society of Ecological Restoration hasn't had many field trips down here recently, but they used to do some down here. So you could look into that. But really, the Orange County group is really pretty active. And I would say that's one of your top ones for sure. But at LA, I follow the LA group also, and they're really active also with their field trips.
Yeah, I've been to the LA like Santa Monica ones a lot. They have a lot of good field trips, and the San Gabriel chapter too is really involved. I think that's it, unless anybody else has any more questions.
All right. Should we
Cool.
just
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, thank you so much, Sandy. But yeah, then our next meeting will be I forget, I think it was May 14th, but that will be on our website. The description will be up soon for that, but that one will be in person at 7 p.m. At the Duck Club in Irvine. So that one should be exciting. And then yeah, lots of field trips. So uh, just go on our website. There's a lot of stuff uh, posted there. So yeah, with that, have a good night, everyone. Thank you, Sandy.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah. Cool.